do math, 11. Relational,
2.
2.
9.
9. Woo.
5.
5. All right. So actually, this is very unique. Usually what happens is that for leaders, they're more comfortable in the doing aspect, the functional aspect. And we had one ringer that carried us through.
Outlier, sorry.
Who was fantastic. And that's why you're such a great leader. And this here, focusing on the being, the supporting, the encouraging, the relational aspect of leading, that's fantastic. Because you may be surprised, but the most effective and high-performing leaders are able to be equipped and empowered in both areas. Both are equally important.
So it's maybe balanced better. So being a 3, 2, and 4, 5 might even be better than being a 4, 9 because they have a similar number of F and R's.
Yeah, so some of these, there's quite a difference, just a one ingredient difference or one difference between functional and relational, and here there's more of a spread. And yet this is just a simple exercise, small sample, and what would be good would be to kind of track it over time, which will lead to a couple more challenges that I'm sure you just can't wait for this evening.
Okay.
Plus you have candy, so I bribed you to come. All right, so what do we need to do to become a thriving leader? First, it's self-awareness, acceptance, and able to say, I have needs, and that's okay. How would you define a need?
Something
Write
that,
it down or talk about it?
You can just share, yes. You can just share.
need is something I have to have. A want is something that'd be nice to have.
Right. So basically, bottom line, something essential. So here's the question. If you're only relying on your ability in terms of determination, willpower, and self-sufficiency to help you be at your best, you're limiting yourself. And I wouldn't say that anyone here, just knowing you, is on that end of the spectrum. But there are some people who are off balance that rely solely on themselves, and they're limiting themselves. What I'd like to do is, on the count of 3, we're going to shout out as loud as we can in this wonderful conference room, I have needs. 1, 2, 3. I have needs! I have needs, very much with gusto and passion. So it's a little awkward to verbalize it. At the same time, it's good because we don't talk about this as openly as we could in a professional setting or even in our personal relationships. I do want to point out that there are boundaries, obviously, to personal, to vulnerability in the workplace as well. We are created to be in relationship with one another. So that is a need that is essential. We have our vertical relationship with God, and then we have horizontal relationships with others. Dr. Townsend is a psychologist, a leadership expert, and the author of the latest book, People Fuel. So I'm putting a plug in here for you to buy this book. It's fantastic. And a lot of what we're visiting about today is from this book. And our relational needs are something that he calls relational nutrients. You're going to learn the 22 relational nutrients today and understand the value and importance they have in a thriving life, when to utilize them, how to apply them in the transfer process, and how to assess and adapt your approach. I want to give a brief overview of Dr. Townsend's competence and character growth path. This could be a workshop in itself, but we're just going to keep it very surface level. To bear fruit, you need to have a soil that's rich in nutrients. And with that, how nutrient rich is your soil? And when I speak about soil, I mean your environment. And it's really hard to see my little laser light, but it's about your environment. So is it toxic? Is it healthy? Is it somewhere in between? Looking at your handout, which has the relational nutrients on it, and your note-taking handout, I want you to count how many relational nutrients you're receiving on a daily basis, and then count how many relational nutrients you are receiving or you're giving on a daily basis. Did you get one? The shortchange.
I can share.
Oh no, you must have your own. It's available for free online as well. Alright, so how many do you receive on a daily basis and how many do you give? And you write your number down on your handout.
Are they either or could they be both?
Either you're receiving them or you're giving them, so you
So
could
what
double
the-
up.
But you could have both.
Yep.
Okay.
So one, you're giving to others, and the other, someone's giving to you. So giving and receiving. So they could be the same. Good question. Yep.
Any of these quadrants.
Yep, any of the quadrants. So the 22 relational nutrients are divided amongst the 4.
Okay.
Yep. So as you've gone through them, you're just going to add up how many you give on a daily basis and how many you receive. So both totals cannot exceed 22, since there's only 22 possible for each. And if you need more time, certainly that's something we can circle back to you with. But this is a great exercise in the sense of, are you getting your needs met on a daily basis, and are you helping others get their needs met? And it's something that we don't always have in terms of conscious awareness to, or maybe we're not as intentional about it. The other element is to make sure that we have relational nutrients met from all quadrants, so that we're not just heavy in one or the other. The next part of the growth path are the roots. And the roots are the elements of growth, which are these right here. Grace, which is unconditional love and support from God and others. Truth, which is reality. It's defined as what is. And truth guides us, instructs us, and teaches us. And what we base truth on will determine that direction. And then growth takes time. So that is our soil feeds the roots, and then our roots take the nutrients up to our trunk. So how strong is your trunk? These are the character structure capacities, the building blocks of the self. And Dr. Townsend defines character as those set of capacities required to meet the demands of reality. The good news is we can strengthen these areas. So being strong in our relationships, being strong with our boundaries, and being a distinct and unique person, to be able to integrate positive and negative realities seamlessly in ourselves and in others. And then adulthood, functioning as an adult and having a mission and a purpose and a fulfilling career. So as the nutrients travel up the trunk, then we have an opportunity to bear fruit. And we do this in 3 ways. Personally, which is within ourself, in our behaviors, thoughts, emotions, and values. And then also people in our personal and professional relationships. And then in performance. So that's the doing aspect, our career, vocation, maybe it's one of service. This is where we're going to bear fruit in our lives as evidence of having nutrient-rich soil from our environment, getting the elements of growth, having a strong trunk to meet the demands of reality, and then we have the fruit. The bottom line is to nourish the root to bear the fruit. And when you do this, you're going to have the ability to think more clearly, have more energy, and make better decisions. Here's an image I created that you'll never, ever forget. And this is representative of the 4 quadrants. And you've noticed that perhaps on your sheet where the 22 relational nutrients are divided up in 4 quadrants. And I'm going to go through each one. What I'd like you to know is that this is you. I am artsy. As you can tell, this stick person is you as a person that has needs. And when you get your needs met, you're in a diamond because then you're at your best and you shine. And so what does this look like? This means that you're able to have courage and take risks and reach out to people, people that are safe, where you have this connection, you have this mutual commitment to development and growth, and these people are for you, so they're in your court, where you can ask them, and then they can provide that nutrient that you need. The key is in the moment. That's where the magic happens. So here's how it can play out. One area could be directly and intentionally going to a person and asking them to meet a need of yours, okay? Specifically asking for that relational nutrient. Another way would be having interactions at home or at work, and you're recognizing some things in the other person, and you would be able to identify that need or relational nutrient they need in the moment, and then you're able to provide that for the other person. So even if someone doesn't ask, you can still give them really what they do need. And they might not necessarily be communicating that. So there's this dual exchange process that's magical and transformational. These quadrants also can be divided into 2 categories. And so quadrants 1 and 2, which I will dive in deeper in a moment, deal with feelings. And sometimes it's really hard for us to name what we're feeling in the moment. And this feeling spectrum is a really good, handy tool to utilize with those you lead and also for yourself to help you identify perhaps what's really going on, and is it at a low intensity or is it a really high intensity? The next 2 quadrants are associated with truth. So based on what we've shared, what's been discussed, what we've gone over, how do you believe that giving and receiving relational nutrients will impact your personal and professional life? And you can feel free to share with each other when you feel that you're ready to go. You can give me a thumbs up. Okay. Thumbs down. All right. How about Tex? Why don't you kick us off?
Okay. Well, I think it's one of those things that when you look at the entity of who we are, and if you think about, on a religious sense, you know, the notion that we are God's children, is that He has given us great attributes